Alice was already tired of sitting with her sister, with nothing to do. Every now and then she peeked at the book her sister was reading, but it didn't have any pictures or dialogues. So what's the book for, Alice thought, without pictures or conversations? And Alice, even though she was sleepy and lazy due to how hot it was that day, thought to herself, is it worth making a daisy chain? She thought the effort would be worth it, so she went to pick up the daisies, when suddenly a white rabbit with pink eyes appeared and ran towards her. The rabbit took a watch out of his pocket to see what time it was. He shook his head, and then quickly entered the den and disappeared. "Ah, I have to find out why this rabbit is in such a hurry," cried Alice. Filled with curiosity, she ran to the rabbit hole and watched. The hole in the burrow suddenly grew larger, and Alice fell into it. She fell for a long time and suddenly stopped on top of a table that had 3 legs, all made of glass. And on the table there was only a small golden key. She then looked around and saw a small curtain, and behind the curtain was a tiny little door. Alice tried to open the little door with the little golden key, and to her delight the door opened. She looked through the little door and saw a beautiful garden, but she couldn't go there, as Alice was too big to fit through the little door. Then she looked again at the 3-legged table and saw a green bottle. It said, "Drink me." Curious, Alice took the bottle and drank the entire potion. After that, she began to shrink until she was the size of a little doll. Alice opened the door, ran and entered. "What a beautiful garden!" she exclaimed. "Wow, I'm the same size as the bugs on those flowers." Alice's excitement quickly disappeared. She got tired of being little. "I want to be big again," she shouted. This scream scared the white rabbit, who ran past her again. The rabbit mistook Alice for his maid and he ordered, "Go to my house and get my gloves and my fan." Alice was confused by this behavior of the rabbit. "Maybe I'll find something in the rabbit's house that will help me get out of here," she said, full of hope. She was leaving the bunny's house. She saw a piece of chocolate cake that someone left on a table near the door. On the side of the cake, he saw a note written, "Eat me." "I'm so hungry," said Alice as she ate the cake. Suddenly she felt strange and realized, "Oh no, I've grown so much. I'm bigger than the whole house," he shouted. "Get out of my way. You're blocking the door," shouted the white rabbit. Alice went to get Rabbit's fan. Immediately, she began to shrink again. It's just that she didn't know that the fan was magical. It was the fan that made her shrink. "Oh no, I'll never get back to my normal size," she said, looking for some help. Soon after, she saw a green lizard, dressed in a pink jacket. He was sitting on top of a large mushroom, smoking an air pipe. "One side makes you big, and the other makes you small," he said to Alice, and then dragged himself away. "One side? Of what?" Alice asked the lizard. "The mushroom, silly," he replied. Alice then ate a piece of the mushroom. "Oh good, I'm growing." But which way should I go now? That path over there will take you to the Mad Hatter, and the other side will take you to the March Hare, said a voice. Alice looked to look for this voice and saw a Cheshire cat in a tree. I'll see you later at the Queen's game, he said before disappearing. There was a table set under a tree in front of the house. The March Hare and the Mad Hatter were there, sitting drinking tea. A rat was sitting between them, he was sleeping, and two other rats were using him as a cushion, resting their elbows on him and talking to each other. The mouse must be very uncomfortable, thought Alice. But since he's sleeping, he probably doesn't care. The table was big and wide, but they were all sitting tightly in one corner. There's no more space, there's no more space, they shouted when they saw Alice coming close. But there is a lot of space there, said Alice indignantly. And he sat down in a large chair at the other end of the table. Drink some wine, said the March Hare, encouraging Alice. She then looked at the table, but there was nothing but tea. I don't see the wine, she said. We have no wine, said the March Hare. It wasn't at all polite of you to offer it then, said Alice angrily. It wasn't polite for you to sit at the table without being invited, said the March Hare. I didn't know the table belonged to you. It was made for much more than just 3 occupants, she said. You can stay, but you have to answer my riddle, said the March Hare. What is the similarity between the crow and the desk? Alice was very intrigued. This riddle seemed very absurd, it had no logic at all. I don't understand you, said Alice politely and softly. Haven't you figured out the riddle yet? Said the Mad Hatter. I give up, what's the answer? I haven't the slightest idea of the answer, said the Hatter. Neither do I, said the March Hare. Alice sighed. I think you could do better with your time than spend it on unanswered riddles, said Alice, and continued her walk. Suddenly Alice found herself in the middle of a field where the Queen of Hearts was playing cricket. The Queen's guards were shaped like playing cards. There was a gardener who had planted white roses by mistake. To fix it, he was painting these roses in red color. Cut the head. I hate white roses, shouted the Queen. The Queen of Hearts noticed Alice was there, and asked her, Have you ever played cricket? Yes, Alice replied shyly. But I've never used a flamingo or a hedgehog. Play with me, ordered the Queen. And you have to let me win, or I'll have your head. Alice tried to play the best she could, but she had trouble with her flamingo. Cut the head, shouted the Queen. Suddenly a trumpet began to play from afar, calling the entire court to a meeting. Everyone rushed to the meeting room. Now is the time for the court session, announced the White Rabbit. Please, Alice, come forward. Alice went to the podium and looked at the judges, who were the March Hare and the Mad Hatter, and they were making noise. The mouse slept and the Cheshire cat smiled at her. What is happening? Alice asked. You are guilty of stealing the delicious heart-shaped pies, accused the Queen of Hearts. So much nonsense. I have no idea what you're talking about. I was just playing cricket, complained Alice. Alice felt someone touch her shoulder. Wake up, you've been asleep for too long, said his sister affectionately. I had a very strange dream, said Alice. And she told her sister about the white rabbit, about the crazy story of the tea table, about the Queen of Hearts and about the court. But his sister didn't even pay attention. You're reading again, muttered Alice. And when she stretched, she saw a white rabbit with pink eyes running behind a tree. Alice's mind was still spinning with vivid images from her dream as she tried to shake off the remnants of sleep. The details of their strange adventure remained, almost as if they were more than just a dream. She could still hear the March Hare's mad chatter and the Mad Hatter's eccentric riddles. The vivid colors of the Queen's garden and the curious creatures she had encountered seemed real. Her sister, meanwhile, was busy with some embroidery, occasionally glancing at Alice with a knowing smile. You always have the most peculiar dreams, Alice, she said. But they make for fun stories. Alice nodded absently, her thoughts still in the dream. She stood up and stretched, feeling the soft grass beneath her feet. The world around her seemed so mundane compared to the fantastical land she had just left. Yet there was a part of her that couldn't let go of the dream, a part of her that longed to return. She walked to the tree where she thought she saw the white rabbit. Maybe I'm still dreaming, she reflected. The rabbit hole under the tree looked exactly like it had in her dream, and she couldn't resist peeking inside. To her surprise, she saw the faint outline of a tunnel, just like before. Her sister shouted, "Alice, where are you going?" Alice hesitated. "I'm not sure," she answered honestly. The pull of the rabbit hole was strong, but she knew it was just a fantasy. Or not. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she took a tentative step forward, looking deeper into the tunnel. While standing there, she felt a peculiar sensation, as if the world around her was changing. She blinked and, for a moment, thought she saw the Cheshire Cat's familiar crooked smile floating in the air. Imagination is a powerful thing, she told herself, but the line between dream and reality seemed to blur. Determined to hold on to the wonder of her dream a little longer, Alice decided to explore the area around the tree. She found herself in a small clearing filled with wildflowers and buzzing bees. It was a peaceful place, far removed from the chaos of Wonderland, but she couldn't shake the feeling that magic was still in the air. Maybe Wonderland isn't just a dream, she thought. Maybe it's a part of me, a place I can visit whenever I close my eyes. The idea filled her with a sense of excitement and wonder. She realized that her adventures in Wonderland taught her to see the world differently, to find magic in the ordinary. As she wandered back to her sister, Alice felt a new sense of purpose. She would cherish her dreams and let them inspire her waking life. She would look for the extraordinary in everyday life, just as she had in Wonderland. And who knows? Perhaps one day she would find herself back in that fantastic land, chasing the white rabbit once again. Her sister looked up from her embroidery and smiled. "Ready to come back to reality, Alice?" Alice smiled back. "Not yet," she said. "There's still a lot to explore, both here and in my dreams." And with that, Alice sat down next to her sister, picking up a book to read. But this time she wasn't reading just to escape. She was reading to find the magic in the world around her. And as she turned the pages, she felt a sense of anticipation, knowing her next adventure was just a dream away. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the meadow, Alice and her sister shared stories and laughter. The line between dreams and reality never seemed so thin, and Alice knew that she would always carry a piece of Wonderland with her, no matter where her adventures took her. The White Rabbit, the Queen of Hearts, the Mad Hatter, they were all part of her now. And when she closed her eyes that night, she knew her dreams would be full of wonder and magic, just waiting to be discovered.